limit yourself to just one bot, which is what I've always done. I pretty much just use the chat bot from Streamlabs to do everything I need. And for the most part, it gave me what I needed. I just wanted sound effects. I also used a couple widgets for alerts, like when people follow. And speaking of which, I want to test that and make sure it's working. It's the two things I usually do at the beginning of my stream right before I start. Is I just want to make sure that alerts are working. So I use a little tool in the Streamlabs alert widget that allows me to test the different things. So like if somebody were to follow, I should get that little image popping up. And if somebody were to subscribe or resub or donate, then I get these little messages coming up on top. And that kind of calls my attention. So if I'm busy playing a game or doing something, that calls my attention. And I got the little tip jar on the bottom right, which I always thought was a cool widget because different events in chat make different little coins come across and drop into the tip jar. So I got that from one of my favorite streamers, Lucy May, who's always done cool stuff with widgets and like tip jar and stuff like that. So this was all I ever really started with, was like a chat bot to play some cool sound effects, and you guys have heard a lot of those, and a couple widgets. So I've got like the tip jar, I've got like when events happen, they flash onto the screen, but there's so much more that we can do. And now that Daddio is really carving a good path into a lot of these, it's kind of re-inspiring me to go back and look at some of those things. So keep your hats on. I'm going to be trying to turn on things like the roulette wheel, gambling. You can do things like a heist where people get together. And a lot of this revolves around the idea of points. So you collect these points, like the more you watch and the more that you take part in somebody's stream, you collect points. And what's interesting is Twitch themselves is managing points. They realized this was a smart thing to do. But then with your own third-party tools like Streamlabs and Stream Elements, you can also manage points your own way. So I've done a couple things. I'm starting to enable points through Streamlabs and Stream Elements where you can redeem points for different things. But I'm starting to just use the straight up Twitch points for some basic things. So if you were to look at my stream down where you chat, and I wonder if I can do this by turning on my D2. Hang on a second. Let's see if I can make this work without giving up too much information. So if I turn this guy on, does that work? Okay, so behind it, I've got a wiki page open, but right here, this is the bottom of my Twitch page if it was being viewed by somebody else. And towards the bottom, you might see this little red heart right here. This represents the channel points. Now, for me, when I look at it, I have infinite channel points because I'm the owner of the channel, and it doesn't make sense for me to accumulate channel points. But you, as the viewer, if you look at my Twitch page while I'm streaming, at any point you can click this little heart and you can see how many channel points you've got. Now, if I do that, it's probably going to say infinite. But the other thing is you can see what you can earn by using channel points. So if I pull this down a little bit, I've created some rewards. And so that that's a funny effect that I'm creating, like a double. It's like a hall of mirrors, right? But basically, I've created just a couple of basic rewards that can be like your points. As you accumulate them, you're like, well, what can I do with these points? You know, what's the value of it? Well, if you wanted to highlight a message in chat, you could select highlight my message. It'll say, this is going to cost you 250 points. Is this what you want to do? And you can say, yeah, I want to send a message in chat and I want it to be highlighted so it really stands out from everybody else's chat, right? Or you can unlock a sub emote. So a sub emote is like an emoticon that only a sub could use. Like most people can use all the regular emotes, like, you know, clicking the little smiley face you can see, but there's some secret emotes that are only for subscribers. So normally you would have to become a sub to be able to use that emote. But with channel points and special rewards like this, you can now just use 375 points and you can say, I want to use that sub emote, and then you can do it. This is exactly what happened to me last weekend. 6.4K away. Oh man, I think I know what you're going for. That's why I made the points kind of high, because I had no way of knowing where everybody's starting from, because they actually started channel points like, I don't know, months and months ago. And I turned them on, but I wasn't paying attention. So that means everybody was just accumulating. Every time you watch, I think for every like 15 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you get like 10 or 20 points. Well, that just keeps adding and adding and adding and building just by watching. Well, there's different things you can do. When you follow, you get a bonus of points. When you subscribe, you get a bonus of points. But just by watching, and if you're a follower that watches, you get even more points. So it's a kind of accumulate over time kind of thing. So if you don't want to pay money to become a mod to get special perks and privileges, and you just happen to watch all the time, you now can get some benefits from doing that. So if you watch your points, that's right here next to this little red heart, you'll see those always going up whenever you watch. And before you know it, you might have 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000. When I asked Daddio TV, he said his numbers were pretty high, and when he set his rewards, he ended up having to pay a lot, like all the time. So he set his rewards really high, like tens of thousands of points. I wanted to set mine pretty high, but not through the roof. I wanted it to be within reach, and I also put a 2 cap limit on these shots. So because the way I look at it is, for a long time, nobody's going to have enough, right? And then all of a sudden, everybody's going to start hitting at the same time. And this guy's going to say, okay, shot of this, shot of that, shot of that. So I got to have some way of kind of keeping it at a reasonable level. But I figured start the shots at 4K. The Australian Death Rum is by far the hardest one at 8K. You've got Jaeger at 5K and Tequila at 6K. I feel like it's pretty reasonable. I may regret it. I may wish I'd set those a little higher. But for now, I'm assuming that people that have been watching for a while already have a couple thousand points, I'm guessing. Like Berto just said he's 6,000 away, so that means he's got 2,000 points. Somebody that watches a little bit more often than him would have 3,000. Somebody that watches less might have 1,500 or 1,000. So this is a very experimental starting point for me using channel points. I've never really used them before. I went ahead and turned them on, and I defined a few custom rewards. You might wonder why 4 out of the 6 are drinks. And there's actually a reasonable explanation for this. It's not just that I want to have shots all the time. My plan was to do one. Okay, there you go. 10 points for 5 minutes watch. So as you can imagine, that's going to add up pretty quick. And there's other bonuses for things that happen. If you're like an active chatter, as opposed to a lurker, I think you get bonuses for that over time. There's a difference between like an active watcher and a passive watcher. So the reason I end up doing 4 shots is because for each, I wanted to work on that. I did want to create one of those, and I'll tell you why I didn't do it yet. I only learned how to do this about 2.5 hours ago, 3 hours ago, when I had a little brainstorming session with Daddio. And it turns out every time you want to create one of these little rewards, you have to build some graphics of different sizes because of different events that could happen. And it's actually kind of time consuming. So I did one. I did the little whiskey shot that you can see in the picture, and it took longer than I thought it would. So to go out and do a different one for each, I was like, no, I just used the same image for all 4, and I just kind of changed the background color. But when I get more time, my plan is to have like maybe one for a Twitch Sings song, maybe one for a toast, maybe one for ask me to do something. I could kind of come up with some things. So I'm going to have some different things. But for now, just in a pinch, in a hurry, I took 2 of the ones that were already there by default, highlight my message, and unlock a random sub emote. Those were already there by default. And I basically built one of my own custom, and then I multiplied it times 4, and I just changed the type of drink for each because I've already got those drinks ready here to go anyway, just in case I have subs. So I figured that would tie in pretty easy. But next time, I'm definitely going to have more. But I just wanted to explain kind of the concept of channel points. A lot of other streamers are starting to use it now. They were talking about it like a month or 2 ago, but not many of them were actually using it. I mean, you have to build the kind of configuration around it. Like, what are the rewards going to be? How fast do they gain? And you can take the defaults or you can customize it. So I customized mine a little bit. Like that heart that's next to the channel points, I built that. By default, it's something else. So I tried to make it a little bit more of a doctor theme. I plan to have other images that are of that theme. And so anyway, that's the plan. So that's one of the new things that I'm doing is these channel points.